the question you asked me then before we actually started recording was why the frequency and heaviness of podcasts at the moment, right? So I used to run a really successful podcast. You may or may not know this, called School of Struggle. We got up to 20,000 downloads per episode on every episode that we did.
Awesome.
Then I stopped for ages, and everyone started telling me, "Man, you need to start podcasting again." Like it's like everyone's doing podcasting. I saw that at the time as a negative thing because it meant that there's a lot of noise out there, and it meant that if I was to start a podcast, I'd be starting at square one again. Even though I knew how to get that traction and that ability to have that many listeners back on again, I knew how to do that. I still perceived it as a negative to some degree that everyone else out there had one, so it kind of became a cool thing now, right? So I've seen it in a different light now, where now I have infinite opportunity to go and be a guest on so many new podcasts that are out there. And that actually does more for me than having my own, because they actually introduced me to their world, and I have the ability to help them through all those things too. So I guess you could say I had a newfound light for the benefit of there being infinite amount of new podcasts out there, because I could go and actually provide value to all their audiences without actually having to have one of my own.
No, that's cool, man. Well, I'm not complaining because I'm stoked to have you on.
Oh, dude, I'm really grateful to be here too. I really quite like you, so I think this is a good conversation.
Yeah, and it was funny. I was just going to say it was quite serendipitous almost, because I had actually planned on making the podcast, and I had made a list. I'd made like an Excel sheet of like 50 people, right? And actually put you on it, because I always see your stuff on Instagram, and I'm like, you'd be like an awesome dude to have on, because I know you've got the charisma, you've got the energy. And I remember, we'd only met probably once in an Uber, and I was like, I've got to have this guy on the podcast. And then I made a list on Monday, and then I see you Friday that week, and I hadn't seen you for a couple of years.
Yeah,
so I was like,
that's right. Yeah, how funny.
Serendipity. I ran past you, and I was like, okay, I've got to reach out to him. And then I sent you a message, and I was like, let's do it.
How funny is that, man? I fully get it. I fully get it. So look, that's great, and I'm really grateful for you too, because for me, like I just like, one, chatting, you can't shut me the fuck up, and two, I like educating at the same time too. But give me an understanding with this specifically. Are we here to educate the people who are going through your HSC programming?
So no, it's not necessarily targeted to HSC at all. This is for a broad audience. Let's say young adults, or even established entrepreneurs, people who want to get better at sales. So I'm trying to hone in on particular subject matter. I know your kind of field of expertise is in sales, and you've also done stuff with personal training and fitness and things like that, right?
Yeah, heaps, man. Absolutely.
But business growth in general, and so that's the focus of this podcast, is shaped by the guest, which is you. So we're going to be looking at sales and whatnot, because that's your area of interest. But I am looking at having different people on to cover different subject matter, different fields,
sure. Different categories.
But before we crack into it, and by the way, I will be getting into some questions on, like, I want to kind of get to the basics as well for people out there who are just being introduced to the idea of sales. So I might ask some questions like, define X, define Y as we go.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
So I apologize for any interruptions in advance.
No, that's okay. Don't stress.
So the first thing is, can you give the audience a bit of a background about yourself? What are you up to these days? Where have you come from? Who's Chris M?
So what am I up to? And you will know this too. I am 5'8". I'm never going to get taller than that. It's a terrible joke that my dad used to say. Whenever it says "What's up?" I'd say fucking my height, right? But it gives a little bit of an understanding of the type of person I am. So I guess the reason why I'm here right now is probably because I've had more failures than anyone else in the world. And because I'm really good at failing, but I'm really good at learning from those failures do come up at the same time too. I was a fat kid in school who went down the path of really self-defeating characteristics pretty much every single day of his life, and decided to make a change and went into the world of going from just under 110 kilos of fat. And you know how tall I am. I'm not tall. That was a big fucking kid. And I made the conscious change to lose some weight, and I ended up going down to 63 kilos, which was half my body weight.
What was the catalyst for that?
The catalyst to that was fucking being slapped in the face by so many people telling me how fucking shit I was and how fucking much fun people were making me at the same time too. You know what I mean? Like,
is it like a chip on your shoulder as well? Like, it's a way of getting back to everyone who made fun of you? Or
no, not at all. Not at all. And I'll explain further that too, right? Like I saw it as super value. I don't have a chip on my shoulder on anything. When I did lose all the weight, it's funny, right? Like all the people who used to make fun of me started coming out of the brickworks and saying, "Hey, can you help me do the same? Like, can you help me lose weight? Can you help me do this? Can you help me do that?" And I was just like sitting there going, like, "Fuck!" Like, for if and it made me think from a psychological standpoint. If you're asking me these questions, how much must you be hurting to ask the person you used to hurt for help? And it made me realize that I have a golden ticket opportunity to help some people that, even though I don't believe they fucking deserve it, to help them out right now at the same time too. And I went and got my personal training certificate. And I was a personal trainer for all of about 3 days. I decided to throw the towel in because I fucking hated the early mornings and late nights of personal training in the first place too. And then I fell into a job at a sports nutrition supplement store in Bondi Junction called Australian Sports Nutrition. And I'm pretty sure the reason they asked and wanted someone to work there was because they wanted someone to make sure that the shop wouldn't burn down on a Sunday. Okay. And I was successful in making that happen. No, I made sure the shop didn't burn down. And I felt really good about myself. But I also found that the way that I was helping people actually change their body composition was the thing I was really I'd fallen in love with. And I found that when I was in the supplement stores, that I was able to help give them the nutritional needs that they would need through the actual education and, diet plans I might give them. And I'd be able to give them, 3 or 4 different things that would help them actually lose weight or gain muscle quicker through the supplemental things that would provide to that. But I wouldn't actually have to spend any time training them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was in a position where I could actually get them the same fucking result, but by doing less and by asking for money to make that happen. It was at that point that I fell in love with sales and more so than anything else in the world, because I realized I was really fucking good at it because I focused on what their pains were and I gave them a cure, not a band-aid, but a cure to the pain. And because of that, they kept sending me more and more and more and more and more people to cure their fucking problems too. So who I am and how did I get here? I was a fat kid who was scared shitless, who found out that he could fix other people's fears by being less fat and being more courageous. If that's the best way to explain it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And yeah, go on.
And since then, I've fallen in love with the sales side, and in a roundabout way, I went from that shop, got fired from there because I thought I stole heaps of money and I didn't, and they felt like absolute dickheads when they realized it was someone else. I went across the road and built my own shop. Me and 2 mates went into business and we created our own shop, literally right across the road. Because they were not impressed at in the first place, but fuck you guys anyway. Maybe I do have a chip on my shoulder for one thing. Maybe that's the one thing I have a chip on my shoulder for.
How old were you when you did that?
22. I'm 29 now, if that gives reference.
Yep.
So that was 22, and from there, we had a bit of a fallout with the guys I was working with, not through anything other than I needed more personal growth for myself. An opportunity came up to go work with a company called Muscle Tech, which was still is one of the world's largest sports nutrition brands based in Toronto, Canada. So I was traveling. So I said yes, and I took the role, and I worked for Muscle Tech, looking after Australia, New Zealand, Asia, and a tiny bit of Europe. So I went from owning a fucking supplement retail store to looking after 5 continents in sales in the space of a day. So
wow,
you have to level up. You have to level up pretty heavily psychologically to get through that process. I was going from making $5,000 a day to making or having budgets of $5 million a month. You know what I mean? So it was like,
were you scared when that happened? It kind of just forced you into it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. You fucking scared shitless of that. But I didn't know a methodical way to get through that process at that point. It was just turn up and do the work. Turn up and do the work. Turn up and do the work. But it's the same form that's worked for me for my whole fucking life. It's turn up, make friends with the right people, and get them to do the work for you. That's been my biggest win so far for my whole fucking life. But what happened then was I hit a bit of a glass ceiling. We grew a lot, and I wanted to open up an office here in Australia, but they weren't actually ready for the growth that I provided to them, and I didn't realize I'd done that much for them. I was fucking dumbfounded myself. And I pretty much built out like a revenue plan for them to actually have this opportunity to have offices in all these different countries. And they weren't keen on that idea because they didn't see it going that way, and that wasn't the path they wanted to go down at that point. This would have been 2016 or thereabouts. And I got poached by an Australian distributor to go work as just as a sales rep for them. but grew up into the national sales manager position within 6 months because of my ability to actually sell and structure a deal in a way that anyone would say yes. And I very quickly had a team of 7 working under me very, very, very quickly. And that company went into liquidation because the actual owner was taking money out of the company and siphoning it. So I was left in a position where I had no money, no job, no anything. And why I get to this is to tell you where I am now, is I was helping people were buying product of us, and we grew the business because people were actually buying into the fact that I was capable of helping them grow their business they bought product of us. I helped them sell that. And they used what I was able to structurally help them sell our products with the same, with the other distributors. So their businesses grew like exponentially without me even knowing the real reason why. It was because of me and me not being dumb, apparently. And that works in my eyes. And then the D-Day came, and I got the call. I was in Canberra on the way back from meeting a whole bunch of clients down in Canberra, and I got a call from the actual head of sales. He's like, "Hey man, time to drive home. The company's been fucking shut up." I'm like, "Well, this is fucked." But it was a blessing in disguise because all the people who I was helping pretty much said to me, "Hey Chris, you're gone from the industry now. We would like to have you back. Would you be open to consulting to us?" And I pretty much told them to get fucked. I'm just like, "Why? I don't care." They're like, "We'll give you $5,000. I'm like, "Yes, I will consult to you. I will 100% consult to you now. Yes, I will consult to you."
Money
and
talk.
that's sort of where, yeah. And that's when I was like, wow, okay, I can make a living out of this, right? And I've been doing that sort of ever since. And that's been since about 2017. I've had some ups and downs. I've left the industry and come back, and I've been in multiple different positions. But if people, because they always look for this, like, what have you done, Chris? Well, across the past 6 years, I've generated more than $50 million myself. I have also been in a position where I've been able to coach about 3,000 or 4,000 people directly, and then spoken at about 30 different seminars, and been the type of person that can help anyone pretty much achieve any financial or non-financial goal that they ever want, because I have essentially a really methodical format and structure that you can pretty much take from any one industry and go to the next and next and next, and make it a fun process for people too. So awesome. Now I train salespeople, and I do some really cool structured joint ventures with like every company out there possible. And I will give you a really cool piece of advice on this podcast right now. Ask your questions in a way that help you with your business right now.
I was planning to, but I will also, yeah, go on.
No, because it gives me an opportunity to fine tune some skills, but it also gives me an opportunity to help more people understand how they can be helped too.
Okay, awesome. Well, I will definitely target some of the latter questions towards that. You got to be selfish. And
100%.
It'll probably be 100%. More anyway. People enjoy it more. I also didn't want to come on and just get free consulting. So
it's funny, right? The last podcast I did, which is like an hour ago, the guy, we finished up, and he took the record button off just like this, and he stopped recording. And he goes, "Hey man," he goes, now, like, he goes, I want to become your client. He goes, "You just blew my fucking mind so much. I want to become a client of yours." I said, "Don't worry about that. Hit record again and let's coach you." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Hit record again. Let's coach you right now." And we went for another hour just coaching him. I said, the reason I said hit record is because what you're going to do from now is you no longer have to pay for a cent for coaching from me. All you have to do is go re-listen to it, press stop, write down what I said. Press stop, write down what I said. Press stop, write down what I said. And you now know what to do for the next year. He's like, "Thank you." So
no, that's awesome.
I am happy to do that. I'm happy to do that for everyone.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Everyone.
Just to kind of take a step back with all of this for just a more broader audience here. What's the difference between sales, marketing, branding? Like what do these things mean, and why are you into the sales side? How does that relate to brand?
It's really funny, right? Because I guess they all coincide at some point. You have nothing to sell if you don't market. Sorry, you have no one to sell to if you don't market, and you've got no sales from the marketing if you don't sell. Branding is what people say behind your back when you're not around. That's probably the best way to put it. Branding is what people say when someone hears the word, like, or the name Chris Morrison, Chris M. It's what is said after that is your brand. You know what I mean? Like, he's the short kid who used to be fat who owns a sausage dog. that is a part of my brand, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's also the things that happen after that at the same time too. So your marketing and sales will determine what people say behind your back at some point in time. So your branding is determined by your sales and marketing in the first place as well. What's the difference between sales and marketing? Marketing gets you the customers, sales closes the customers. Without one, the other doesn't exist.
Got it. And for branding, because you mentioned that the sales will shape the brand, but how do you think about building brand as a means of kind of almost making sales directly redundant, in that the brand's so strong that you don't even need to sell directly? So I kind of want you to talk about like direct sales versus indirect sales. What's your view on that?
Cool. So direct, so I'm probably better at direct selling. Don't get me wrong, I still get a lot of like benefit from the whole indirect and what we're trying to get across there, the branding side too. But there is still like, there may be a little bit more confidence with the branding, but people's fears don't change. And the reason why people don't buy is because they're scared. Now, even if they know who you are, they think you can do it. They still don't think that you can do it for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They still don't think that you can do it for them because they're fucking different, and their fears are different to other people's. When it's not true, you may be a different moist robot in a fucking existence of humanity, but you don't have different fears. And the only difference why it won't work for you is because you're scared of you and what happens if you do make that happen too. So even if you do have the brand, let's use, like, hypothetically, right? I want to get a fucking home loan from Commonwealth Bank. I'm still going to go there and question them on what's going to happen with my home loan. I'm not just going to go, you guys are Commonwealth Bank and I trust you. It doesn't fucking work like that. Like, you need to have that conversation at some point still. It might make it so the masses know who you are enough to at least start that conversation. But without that, they're not going to buy shit. They still need to actually have their objections overcome to some degree. And that's why even the world's biggest companies still have sales teams.
How do you overcome fear? I mean, I know this is quite a specific question, or rather it requires context, but how do you overcome fear through sales? Are there any kind of macro ways of looking at that?
Yes, absolutely. Understanding, that's a fucking great question based off something that I know how to answer at a really methodical way that gives me a practical step to do it as well. If you're in sales, you know to look for objections. It is like, it's common. You have to look for objections. With fears, using sales and marketing skills that you can actually, or that you're already aware of on how to use those to get to the next stage of life and through those fears, is this takes a little bit of work. This isn't a contextual thing that you can just go say, I'm going to work out the objections. It has to be something where you need to have the ability to be consciously aware enough of your own internal dialogue in the way where you can understand what the objections are when you're having a desire to do something in your life and you want to be a hypothetical, right? I want to start a podcast. I want to go out there and get my podcast out there, but I'm way too scared to do it because people are going to say shit about me and I don't know what they're going to say behind my back. That is a very valid, unknown, uncertain situation that you're going to put yourself into comes down to it. But until you identify what the true core belief there is, and most people, it's like, either I don't deserve it, I don't believe I can do it, I don't believe I can stay consistent enough for long to make it happen, whatever it might be. These are all subconscious objections that are coming up, if that makes sense. But if you can use that skill of sales and the objection finding and the objection killing in sales and work out, cool, I know now that when I was going to put my podcast out, I have this fear, this fear, this fear. These are all just objections from my subconscious. How can I now, and this is something you should all go watch a TED talk by Tim Ferriss called Fear Setting. When you do goal setting, it's easy. You know what but you don't know how to get there. You know what you want, but you don't know what's going to stop you from getting there. What fear setting does is it teaches you to identify the fears that are coming up, how to prevent them, and then how to have a plan B if those preventions don't work for you at the same time too. So with me, what fears, I use the objection finding skill sets of sales and marketing and work out what the fears are, but literally write them out. I do this every single morning. When you saw me on the Bay Run, 9 times out of 10, people go, hey man, I saw you on the Bay Run. I'm like, I wasn't at the Bay Run. My body was at the Bay Run, but I was not there. Like, I'm usually there with, I was fear setting. I was working out what the fucking problems are in my life that I need to overcome right now. I'm working out a practical plan for that and working out what plan B is further to that at the same time too. But I do it habitually, so I know what's going to work, what's not going to work. And, you know, I know if it fucks up, I can go back to that process again tomorrow. You know what I mean? And then from the marketing side, the easiest way I can teach you how to be a good marketer right now, and anyone to be a good marketer, is work out what people want. Step 1 is working out what people want. Step 2 is working out what the objections are. Step 3 is working out what they don't want to do to get there. Step 1, I want to have a podcast, but I don't want to do it and feel scared. So I want to have a podcast without feeling the fear of being a podcaster, even if my initial thoughts were that I'm too scared to be a podcaster. That's the objection, the fear, and the thing that I don't want to do. If you can talk to yourself like you're a marketer and say, hey, and this is actually, it's a hypnosis technique called inclusion, where you can actually go and say to yourself, like, yeah, I'm going to be a podcaster and I'm not going to be scared of what's going to happen, even if my subconscious soul tells me that's what's going to happen, because I've been so self-sabotaging in the past before. It retrains your subconscious, because you've acknowledged those objections, and you're telling yourself daily as a mantra through the marketing methodology on how you can get through it and how you will consciously make that happen for the rest of your time until you need to actually get through to the next problem you're going to deal with.
Awesome.
Was that an okay answer?
Yeah. No, that was an awesome answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so something I actually recall you even in that first time we met. I still remember this concept you brought up, and I really liked it. It obviously stuck with me. It was this idea of the irresistible offer, and you've already alluded to it in this podcast. You've said make it so that the customer or client can't say no; they have to say yes, right? So can you tell us about that idea of the irresistible offer?
I'm gonna make it really easy for you. Right now, it's not so irresistible. You have to go and meet the person and this is a great segue. You need to meet the prospect where they are and the conversation they're having in their head right now, and you need to meet them in the conversation they're having in their mind. You need to become essential right now, not irresistible, because everything's essential and non-essential right now. So you need to become essential. So, as a great shameless plug, anyone listening should go and download my free book and free training on how to book a meeting with absolutely anyone right now. It's thecoldemailmastery.com. And the reason I say that is because it will literally teach you end to end how to create an irresistible offer, even during COVID, and still get people to buy your products and services right now. Now, the reason and ways that I do that specifically and teach people how to do that is, how do you have an irresistible now? An irresistible offer as it is in the first place means you have to understand your target market to such a fucking minute degree that you know what their problems are, you know what their fears are, you know what they would stop them from doing something, and you know what their motivators to do something are at the same time too. Now, the way I do it specifically is I look for what the conversation they're having inside their mind is when they're going, like, before going to bed, and the fears that they have at the same time too. And I make sure that my product and service, what the core message that I put out to them is, because the product itself never changes, but the actual messaging you use does. So if you can identify what their biggest fears are and make that a part of your product and service when it comes down to it, I will give you an example of this in a second as well. If you can break it down in such a methodical way that they just go, yeah, it makes sense. This is what I call pragmatic prospecting, because I do a lot of cold email marketing. And why I tell people to go and get that book that I write, yes, it's a book on cold emailing. That's fucking great. But it's the philosophy behind it, a way that I do the cold emailing that actually makes it worthwhile. And then I give people the practical process of how they can actually do it at scale and get hundreds of people saying yes to their service offerings that month, right? Now, the way I'm doing that at the moment, I'll give you a perfect example of that too. I am a fucking joint venture specialist in the way where I will go and find the people who already have my target market, ask them, hey, how can we work together so we can provide value to them and I can make money and you can make money at the same time too. So what I've been doing, and one of the people and one of the types of professions that I've been doing joint ventures with to find a lot of salespeople to go and actually offer my courses to, is recruiters. Because right now, recruiters are hot item tickets for people who want to get a job, because people want jobs, but people aren't hiring right now. So recruiters are hurting too. So we got to think about it. If what I just said, right? I want to go help person, but I'm finding the middleman to go to the salesperson because they have the salesperson at the palm of their hand already. So what I've done is I've worked out that I already know how to help the salesperson. Now I have to work out how to help the recruiter. What are the fears the recruiter having right now? No one wants to hire. They don't know if they're going to have a fucking job tomorrow. And this is the biggest fears that they're having right now too. So what I've done is I've reached out and said, hey, you recruit salespeople. Right now, everyone's sitting at home and everyone's scared shitless. You don't know what's going to happen in your job right now. people aren't hiring and you don't know how to do anything like this, like how to make anything happen business-wise right now too. What I do is help give your salespeople the training to generate business right now, even during COVID-19, and still generate business, so that when you go put them forward to a company, you will be able to say that they are your cure to your problem right now. And you need to hire them, because if you can put them on for a 7-day trial, they will be people who will be able to generate business for you right now. So what I will do with you is partner up with you to train your salespeople, and they will buy my course, and you will take 60% of the profit. So let me say that again. They market my service, do nothing for it, and make 60% of the profit from what I give them. Now, as a value add to that, because they're scared for themselves, I have been training their teams for free on how to do what I am doing and teaching, so they can generate new business, and using the highly skilled sales professionals to essentially remarket new positions at the same time too. And they're all doing that right now. Now, where that becomes irresistible for the people like the recruiters is, all I've done is I said, hey, I'm going to train you for free. I'm going to give you 60% of the profits of anything that comes through when you actually do have the ability to send this to someone and they buy our product or service. And I'm going to do all the work, because here is the 6 email templates you're going to send it to your database, and it automatically sends you money when that comes through at the same time too. For the end user, the sales professional who goes and does my course, what I do for them as the irresistible offer is, cool. So what's step 1 of 1? I don't know how to write the emails. Sweet. There is 80 templates in there, industry specific and relevant to right now. And then the formula on top of that, and how you can actually send it out and get it out there right now. Cool. I've tried this before and it didn't work. Sweet. That's fine. Here is a system that shows you how to do it in that scale, so you never have to worry about trying to actually sit there and do the emailing yourself. It does it for you, automated. Sweet. I don't know how to set that up. Beautiful. I have a technician that will do that for you. I don't have to do a thing. You don't have to do a thing. He will do it for you. But I don't want to do anything. Sweet. You can spend an extra 30, 40 bucks right now, and I will get someone in my team to do the whole thing for you. But we're going to take a percentage of the profits that you make too. Would you be cool with doing that? They're like, yeah, sure. What the way to actually craft an irresistible offer is think about the logical next step. If you can work out what the logical next step for that person is first, and make that a part of your service offering before they even get the chance to say no, they just sit there and go, yeah, that just makes sense. When do we start?
Yep. You put them in a position
like,
where they can't say no.
Yeah. And so like the way I've been doing it lately is because, like, you know, everyone's scared shitless. What I do actually creates certainty to some degree. And I'm doing it in a way where everyone wins at such a no-brainer situation that it's just like, cool, when do we start?
Do you always, so you're structuring the deal there, for instance, with that example, you said 60%, you get 60% or they get 60%
No,
of the profit?
they get 60%.
So what's that 60% of the profit generated from your sales, from your service?
So, for example, what they market towards is a $497 course. If someone signs up and buys that, they get $298.20.
Okay. So do you normally structure? Oh, go on. If you have more to say on that.
But where that is for me is because I'm happy to give up 60% of that straight away, because the second sell and the upsells, like later on in time when they come back, is 100% mine, and I didn't have to do a thing for that lead.
Understood. So do you often use these kind of middlemen you give them 60%, but you do it with so many people that you're getting 40 from all these different people. Correct. Plus 100 on all the upsells.
Correct. So
if you it's kind of like from a macro point of view, you're winning massively, but because you're giving all of the people who you're directly going to for business, you're giving them the majority of the upside. Insofar as it concerns them, then it's hard for them to think how you're getting the better end of it.
Absolutely. But on the same token, like, all I do is open up the possibility of them having new revenue streams without even trying as well. And they don't just have to do it with me. They can do that with hundreds of other people too.
And so you're making them you make them your salesperson.
Correct.
Yeah. And is that a good framework generally for businesses to like find people to incentivize to make them sell for you? Is that kind of into your kind of philosophy? It seems your business philosophy is you make other people do it for you, give them the right incentives.
Well, no. So here's where I will change the words that you're saying there. Right thought process, wrong philosophy. I don't make them do anything. I hand everything to them on a silver platter, and I actually even set up the email marketing for them. and just say, will you allow me to access your database and show them the same value you're getting? Because that way they don't have to do a thing. They don't turn into my salespeople. They just turn into my vehicle for my introduction to their people. So they don't turn into my salespeople. They just turn into my affiliates that give me an opportunity to get referred to, if that makes sense. They don't have to do a thing.
I understand.
Yeah, they don't have to do a thing.
Which is also part of it, because it's far less onerous on them. You don't want them to actually be a salesperson.
Absolutely.
And is that model something you take to all of your kind of potential clients? Everything is in that model?
Can I give you an example of why I'm on your podcast right now? Because I asked to be on podcast, and this is me using your audience to get them back to me.
I see. So,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it almost makes me think of like B2B versus B2C. I mean, you're going through another business to then get the customer. But do you do direct to customer, or is the reason you're doing this just because of the scale? You're going to the top person who has the big net. You're getting much more. You're going to catch much more people by going to the right person versus going to all the individual people who might buy, for instance, your $500 product. If you get the person who knows 100 people who could get that, then that's obviously makes a lot more sense to go through them.
You just answered your own question.
Got it. But what do you think about, do you still do any kind of direct to the potential customer, or is it just not scalable enough for you?
It is scalable, but it has to be done a specific way. So direct to consumer is you still need to have a list of some sort, right? Like, you still need to have a way to do it. Like I do a little bit of Facebook advertising, but it's all retargeted stuff. Like, it's not direct to consumer in a way where I am going to hunt new people. There's still people that are already in my ecosystem that I directly market to, and that, if that makes sense, because they already watch my videos, and they already do engage with my stuff, and they just get retargeted, and they're already in the ecosystem. They already land on my landing pages. They've already been pixeled. Like, they're already people that aren't cold audience, because the biggest challenge most people have is they just sell a product or service to a cold audience who don't know who the fuck they are, don't know what the fuck they do, and then wonder why they don't buy their product or service. So I do some direct to consumer stuff, but it's still a part of the ecosystem already. So it's not really direct to someone that doesn't know who I am. Yeah, random.
Because I was actually going to ask you, I think this is a good segue. Is that what you call a sales funnel, or is that something different?
So sales funnels are essentially just walking someone through a process of buying products from like cold to warm to not warm sort of thing, right? Like, sales funnels sales funnels are essentially for a way things are done, right? Like, your sales, actually, if what you're asking is sales, like online sales funnels, if you understand what a sales process is, like, I do this to step 1 through step 5, where it might be like, I have to prospect, then I have to actually get on the phone with the client, then I have to do this, and this. A sales funnel is essentially a sales process, but done digitally. So
that's the only distinction.
That's probably the best way to explain it. And I've like the best way to make it relevant to understand it too, because a sales funnel just takes someone through, like, it holds someone's hand through the whole process of the actual selling experience, like you would through a sales process when you're actually in direct selling, if that makes sense. And it does the whole thing for you.
Okay.
Because your videos and the copywriting and all the stuff, like, that stuff is just given to you in the same format that you would have as a conversation with someone. It is a little bit more in depth in respects where you have to really go deep into the psychology of the person you're trying to actually attract in the first place, because you need to make sure that the sales page, actual copywriting on that, speaks directly to that. But a sales funnel specifically is just the sales process done digitally, without you being involved.
Okay. And so that's distinct from this idea of, you're talking about not really, or avoiding, because it's not in the best interest for business, but avoiding that direct cold consumer, avoiding that kind of process, and instead kind of the way I was thinking about it, you're kind of catching people in this net. So when you do go directly to them, they have seen your video, as you said, like they've already, for a fact, is that just using the Facebook kind of technology that they've already seen you, or they've clicked on something, or they've watched a
Yeah,
YouTube video.
Facebook or Google, whichever it is. Yeah, whichever analytics that shows it in the back end is usually the best way to do it. Either that, or if they've hypothetically opted into something of mine and I've got their email data already. You know what I mean? So that's probably the.
Yep.
No, sorry, come on.
Going a step back then, how do you get them to first make that first engagement so they're even in that situation? So you've talked about email lists and things like that. How are you getting people on those?
So anyone listening to this right now, if you go to thecoldemailmastery.com and download my book on how to book a meeting with absolutely anyone, you give me your email and then I have your email. That's usually the best way to do it. I provide value, and what they see, the exchange of their email for the information I'm giving them is valuable enough for them to do that, and then they give me their emails.
So you should always, if you're ever going to request information or put someone in a position where they are going to be kind of
if you're asking for their valuable data, you need to be giving them 10 times more than what that data to them is perceived as in their head.
Okay, awesome. And going back to the other question, because I was going to ask something selfishly, when you were talking about using the kind of middleman, can I give you an example of something that I would come across with my resource business?
Yep.
So we've got a set of online resources that is ultimately is ultimately used by school children, right? So students in year 12, they're the people who are going to use it. The people who would buy it are going to be potentially parents or schools, right? Schools / teachers. Then you have the parents who would probably buy it if you marketed over Facebook, say. But you can also have the kids who see the ad and they're usually, in my experience so far, they're the ones who take the initiative. They're probably higher achievers, and they will take the initiative themselves to buy a resource that could help them with their education, right? So I've got kind of the direct to the students, I've got the parents, and then I've got the school / teachers. Of course, if I get when you're talking about your system, it seems to me that the school, because I do try to sell directly to schools and give them a deal, and then you catch a whole cohort, right? Catch a whole year group. Have you got any thoughts on that? Have you got any other ideas on how to go about that in terms of applying your strategy there?
So let's break it down to the methodology of what you're trying to say. We'll segment them into the different types of people you just mentioned them too, right? So number one was the student, number two was the parent, number three was the school. Am I correct in saying that?
Yep.
Cool. So school. So let's go parent first. Parent will be easiest because they're probably the ones that can pull the credit card out at the end of the day. So you got to think about.
Sorry, I should give you just context here. The parent would be paying about 10x more than the school will pay because of the deal there that they get with having the mass thing. So just so you know, just so you have that information.
Okay. Well, I think what I'll say will probably be relevant for both sides anyway. So as a mother or father who is buying a product or service for their child, or, thinking about what their child does when they go to school and all this stuff too, I would look for what happens at school, what happens before school, what happens after school. And that could not just mean in the specifics of like specificity, not in the specificity of just timing, but it would mean like, if your kid's going to school, what products do they buy to go to school? They've got to buy textbooks, they've got to buy calculators, they've got to buy computers, they've got to buy all this stuff, right? They've also got to go and get tutoring. They've got to do this, whatever the hell it might be. There'll be a shopping list of infinite amount of people that would be involved in the process of a child development to some degree, whether they're aware of it or not. It could be uniforms, it could be anything when it comes down to it. This becomes a list of people that already own the data for the people who are the parents who are buying things for the kids for school already when it comes down to it. So you could go and partner up with people like that and become a value add to them and work out how you could actually be their education partner, because they would see the value in their students becoming more educated, because then they'll probably come back and buy more shit from them too. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. So I'm thinking of with stationery, I haven't thought about that before, but like Officeworks, for instance, is an example. So you would go and partner up with Officeworks.
Officeworks. So let's think about this logically right now. So Officeworks, Lowe's, because Lowe's have all the fucking school clothing. They do all the school clothing. Fuck, I don't know, like even down to like early learning centers and all this stuff. Like go to preschools to get into the mind of the fucking parent who already has 6 kids, not just one, and get them to buy shit for kid 1 and 2 while you're warming up kid 3, 4, and 5 in the next couple of years. You know what I mean? Like what do they learn before it? What do they learn after it? You could even go to like the after you go to what happens after school? University. Go to universities and offer the same thing to say, cool, and ask them, what partnerships do you have with schools? Because they have to have them with schools to get child A from school to the university. And how can you access that database for you at the same time too? You know what I mean? To make sure that the people that you get are premium fucking students as well. So they're going to be smarter for you as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea as well. The university.
Yes.
So is getting the data critical to all of this, or is it more just it just depends on how you structure that arrangement?
It depends how you structure it, but the way I get to do it is I get them to promote me to their database.
Okay.
And then
yep.
if so the way I do that, and like I said, I usually have free value, like a book and a training, and will get sent out to someone's database, and they will download that if they want it, if they choose to. If they see value enough to give me their email, they will do that. And then I own that data from there on out. And if they buy, they buy. If they don't, they don't. That's fine. But if they land on that page, I can retarget them.
Got it.
Because if they land on the page at all, I can retarget them because I have the pixels on that page. And then they become a part of that new funnel again.
I see. And the important caveat with all of this, linking back to your previous point, is that, you're not making them actually have to really be proactive or do anything to sell for you. They're merely pushing a promotion or something like that. It's minimal effort.
And if, as the person looking to build that relationship, I would create the marketing material that goes out to their email list for them.
And even type up the email, like just send this.
No. I mean, I'm like literally, like here. I currently right now have a Google Drive full of affiliate emails that I literally, when they agree, I send out the emails to them, and they either chuck it into their email system themselves, or I say, "Are you comfortable doing that?" They're like, "No." Sweet. Give me the logins. I'll do it myself, or I'll get one of my team to do it myself, like for you. So literally, they don't have to do a thing.
Wow. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I haven't really explored that avenue as well as I could have. Personally, I've focused more directly to schools and students and parents through like Facebook, Instagram, and others, YouTube and things like that. But I feel like we could do more, and I feel like that's a really nice additional strategy. This kind of affiliate strategy.
Well, the affiliate strategy itself is like, it's just a way that if you can build a relationship with the person that you want to be in affiliation with in such a methodical way that it just makes it a no-brainer for them to introduce you to their audience, but you have to work out what their fears and problems are in the first place. And if you can do that, you're in a position that they will happily introduce you because they're getting paid to do it and they're not doing a fucking thing for it.
Is your rule of thumb to always kind of offer them, like, how do you structure the profit thing? I know you've said 60% in that, but like, look, is it case by case? You would never make any general rule on that?
I do 60 for everyone. And the reason I do 60 for everyone, but that's my choice. If you want to do less, you do less. Most people do 30. 60 because I want them to really, 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 really win. Like that's my personal choice. That's my personal choice to do that. I really want them to win. Because at the end of the day, shit marketers and shit business people focus on the front end. I'm focusing on the next 5 years that I own this person's data.
I see.
Like the next 5 years where I'm owning this person's data, this product might be 497, but the seminar they might come to might be 4,997 that I keep 100% of.
It's long term.
Correct. It's a long-term strategy
and
for
as
that
you
stuff.
said, they're getting profit on the first sale. Is that a condition, by the way? Like if they enter in a subscription, if it was say they push the market in, or you gave them an email, they passed it on, the person then signs up. First of all, how do you know that was because of that person? Is there a code that they use, or do you just say anyone with this email will be attributed to you?
every affiliate that I have has their own personal link. It doesn't look like any different link, but it is a link that is unique to them. So if they land on that page, I know it came from them. And if they buy from that link, I know it came from them too.
But if they happen to land on the page, go off the page, think about it, then come back to your page, they're not getting the share of that.
So the data still shows.
If you had a subscription model, person signs up and say they're paying $10 a month for 5 years, how do you recommend structuring those deals? Are they getting 60% for up to a certain amount, or are they just going to keep getting?
Totally by choice. Totally by choice. You know what I mean? I think that really comes down to however you'd like to structure it or anything else. So my girlfriend's business, we do a lot of like a lot of affiliate deals with her too. We just give the people who sign up the first month's subscription cost, and then we keep everything else after that. Okay. So hers is like, it's like $60 a month. They get to keep the $60 for the first month, and everything after that is hers.
Wow, that sounds good. if you got a good retention rate.
Yeah, exactly right. And you know, I think that's just something that everyone needs to work on more than anything else. Because at the end of the day, even if you do have a shitty retention rate in the beginning, if you can rebuild that trust in them later on, they're going to buy again anyway.
Can you speak more about customer retention generally on that?
Customer retention just comes to customer trust and customer engagement more than anything else, right? So like, here's a great way when it comes to internet marketing in the first place. Like when someone buys a product of mine, when they buy it, I spend money and there's money transferred through a credit card to my system. They are then chucked into an email sequence that goes for about 24 emails to tell them what the best way they can use our product is, how to get in touch with us directly, what not to do. And it gives them more information than the product itself gives them in the first place too, because they are going to kill a lot of the questions that are coming up, come through those emails. They keep getting touched again and again and again and again, because they're going to answer the questions that are coming up in the first place. Then they go into a Facebook group where I train them again and again and again anyway. So they're always getting interaction in their email, via Facebook, and all that sort of stuff with me. And if they don't want to continue after that, there's usually a reason. And I just find out what that reason is. And if it's a valid one, it was beautiful having you. Catch you later. We have finished our time together. But the way to actually hold that retention is for the period, because everyone runs their course. But the way to hold that retention for the time that you can is make sure that there's a system in place that speaks directly again to the problems that you would normally see when they first start up in a course, whatever it might be, through an automated process. And the way I do that is I work out what the problems are, work out where people generally tend to fall short, and I chuck that into an email sequence for them, and then I chuck it into the Facebook group, because that gives them the answers to the problems that are coming up. So they always feel like I'm in a position where they are going to be having their hand held through the process at such a deep level that they know that if they come to me with a question, they probably know they don't even need to, because it's already been answered.
I see. Yeah, that's a cool concept. So it's like what might start in the early stages as reactive, but still in a positive way, becomes highly proactive in the long term. Because in the short term, you're hearing the questions for the first time, you get the data, and then you become ultra proactive. So anyone else who comes in, you've already anticipated all the possible questions they could have.
Correct.
And in that way,
it's fear setting.
Yeah.
You're
anticipating every worst case scenario someone could have, and you're just providing that solution proactively.
Plugging the hole so no one falls out.
Yeah, I love that. So I'll ask you another specific question, if that's all right, about to my business.
Go for it. Yeah, of course.
What are your thoughts? Because I'm so interested. It seems like everything, and it seems like it doesn't matter what kind of product it is anymore. If it's online, it's subscription, right? It's everyone wants the recurring. It seems that that's an emerging trend. It just more and more. It just seems that things I would have never thought could be subscription are subscription, and they're going to make a lot more money in the long run because of it, because of the stickiness and whatnot. Yep. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that generally? And then to give you my context, basically, I've thought about that. I actually charge a one lump fee. I think like kind of you were saying with your product, it's just a one-off fee. And the reason I do that for mine is because at the moment it's only it's a 1 year course, and because it's really just content embedded within it. If someone was to buy it, let's say at $20 a month, if they were to spend $20, they could theoretically take just the nature of the product is that they could get all the content, photograph, whatever. They could extract all the information in 1 month intentionally because they know then I don't have to pay for the next 11 months. I know not everyone and things like that, but that's kind of the risk that I see. And so I just kind of get the upfront lump sum payment for the year. But if it was a product that went over 7 years, or it provided enough content that no one could possibly consume it all at once or need to, then I would consider a monthly subscription, say. But hopefully that's my kind of thinking. But
I guess it kind of comes down to how you set your product up and how the developmental stages of your product actually come to life. And it depends on if the product itself comes to a result or if it comes to just an education, right? I'll give you a better example of that. Obviously you have the ability to do drip content, right? Like you can drip the content out in a way where, week 1 through 12, you can do, you get the new content the next week, right? But to do that, there generally needs to be an end result in respects of, let's use money, right? Like how to make $30,000 the next 90 days. We're going to give you the next step each week. And it's going to be drip content through that whole process. If there's no result, the drip content means nothing because I don't know what the end result they're trying to go for is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that way you could do it to subscription. If there was an end result and you said you're not going to get the next piece of content till then, and it does completely mitigate that problem of them going in and taking all of it, and dealing with it at that point. Now, the further thing to that is if you want it to be like an information marketplace where you have everything in there and all the stuff too, you may run the risk of that, yeah. But I guess that's where you could think of it in a different perspective and think about what do they normally want first, what's the next logical next step after that, and what's the next logical step after that, and the next logical step after that, and cutting your marketplace up into different products and having this one they buy first and then upselling them into this one and upselling them into this one, the logical next step. So they're all one-off payments, but they're all logical next step one-off payments rather than one lump sum that they might go in, steal everything and never come back.
I see. And the idea there, I mean, would you say it matters? You would have to do that with the price in a way that you're not like worse off. For instance, if you had one product and you cut it up into thirds, if say it was a $300 product and you chopped it up into 3 parts, would you still suggest doing 100, 100, 100?
No, 200 each.
So it's a way of actually getting more value, getting more value out of the customer, I guess, but by doing it in that fashion.
I would do it in that way purely based on the fact that you want to incentivize people to buy the bigger product. Because if they buy the bigger product, they're going to stay for a longer time at the same time soon. If you are asking for that money up front, and they pay that money up front, then that's fine. That's all good. You've got the money up front, if that makes sense. But if they do want to do the smaller bits and pieces, do you charge a little bit higher? Because that it means logic for them. If they're going to have to keep paying the higher price and they're liking what's going on, they may as well just pay the bigger price at the beginning because they're going to get all of it at a better price anyway.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You want them to get the full thing, and you're going to make them.
Absolutely.
It's just incentivizing them away from the smaller, like bite-sized versions of the content. Can you talk to me about pragmatic prospecting?
Yes.
Anything to say on that you might not have already covered directly?
Pragmatic prospecting just means it makes sense. Like the way to do it, and this is the formula for it, is understand your customer well enough to know what fears are going through their heads and make sure that your product is giving them a cure, not a band-aid, but a cure to the problems that they're kind of going through right now. That's what I'm doing with the, and again, recruiters are one of many that I'm partnering with. I'm partnering with recruiters. I'm partnering with people who run resume agencies. I'm partnering with people who are sales trainers, but only do like closing in sales and doing negotiation in sales. So they do the end result. So I'm partnering with them in a way where I'm saying, hey, for someone to care about the negotiation and close side, they need to know how to get a new fucking lead. Let's partner up. You can sell them my training. They'll know how to have 1 million leads and you can now teach them how to close it. Like, that was very smart, young man. Let's do that. Fantastic. There's also different elements of different types of JVs within the education side. Then I can go out to the people who own the actual CRM systems and all that kind of stuff too. Like there's an endless amount of people, but the offer has to change for each different one. So the pragmatic style has to go, cool, I need you to believe when I reach out to you that I hear you without you even saying a word, because I hear the conversation going on in your head right now. Because everyone's got fears, and if you can show them on a silver platter through every developmental stage of that problem that they see that you can provide a cure for, and they get paid for it, and you get paid for it, and everyone wins, it becomes that word pragmatic, where it's just like, it just makes sense to at least have a conversation.
Got it. And
that's how I see it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. One thing I was thinking about, just as you said that, was just with your particular service that you're selling, a sales product, right?
Yeah.
A sales product. How do you think, or how did you go about breadth in terms of your target market and, versus depth? Because personally, I'm in a limited field with only, let's say, 60,000 potential people who could buy in any given year. However you want to, give or take a few thousand. And whereas sales, I see, is such a generic skill that applies to everyone. So is that just like, it just so happens that you're in a field of sales where it's that broad that you can sell it to anyone? Or have you modified that over time to make it more scalable in that kind of sense of breadth of your target audience and who could actually buy it?
Yes and no. And I think the reason why I targeted salespeople is because I have been one my whole life, so I know what their problems are. Like, I am my target market. That's probably the best way that I'm successful, because I am my target market. I know what my problems are, so I just solve my problems and then sell my solved problems. Probably the best way to explain it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I was more thinking like, what does someone do? What's your advice for someone whose area, like if they were selling to themselves, like, let's say I know my own problems, but the people who have my specific problems that I address, let's say, is a niche, and maybe that's fine. But just for someone who's in that situation who wants to build it,
where it's a smaller target area,
where it's a smaller target area to begin with, because that's just happens to be their area that they know best.
Cool. So the way you could scale that is if that's the case, stitch up as many of those like joint venture deals as possible. So you become, if it's a small target audience and you get enough of the joint venture deals, they will see your name that much that they will never consider anyone else's service of value, because you are the referred service by everyone in the field. And number two, take it international.
But even if it's, it's hard to, like the HSC, for instance, like you would have to, and there's got to be some point in these, with these products where you just have to change the content up and make it something else, right? There's only so much you can do to get what you have, but you're talking about really maximizing. Let's say you are capped at like 60,000 people. It's about, as you said, being that go-to.
I think a lot of people try to get more when they haven't spent enough time maximizing the current assets that they have. And hypothetically too, right? Like, if you wanted to make more money, your other asset opportunities could be, if you have a list of people, what other joint venture services could you tap in that you can actually offer to your current audience that you can make money off and be an affiliate for them too? You know what I mean? Like, you don't necessarily need to be thinking, you can think laterally in that respect at the same time too. But the way I would do it is I would focus infinitely deep on how many partnerships can you create over the next 12 months that will make you the only person that they turn to, or that the prospect turns to when it's time to make a decision.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. This idea of like optimizing what you have and maximizing that before trying to, go too far out.
Massively.
Reach more.
Massively.
Yeah, that's a great insight. I've got another thing here. I was going to ask you, what would you do if you had $1,000? If a business has $1,000 right now, and let's go to the current context. Kind of avoided talking about it. Maybe I'm sick of talking about COVID. It's just got to that stage where it's just dragged on a little bit too long. But it is still a real concern for people, of course. And what could a business do that might have $1,000 cash right now, and it's trying to start? You're trying to start a business. What do you do with $1,000? I know that's hard with. Let's say you can go online. It's a potentially online business. But what would you do with that $1,000? Even if it's in terms of just marketing, how would you spend it?
I'm going to give you the answer. I'm going to give you a good answer here, okay? And I'm going to tell you how long that $1,000 will last as well, because I'm going to give you an actual developmental plan for that specifically. Now, this is $1,000 that they have to spend, not $1,000 to live too, right?
This is for the business.
Cool. Let me work this out. I've got 3 months of a plan for you. Okay. 3 months. It will cost you about $90 a month. So that's 270. Yep. 270 plus 210 is $480 it will cost you to do what I'm about to say. So you spend the time to create a list of potential partners to reach out to. And then you go to Fiverr and get someone to build lists of those potential partners for you for the next 3 months, which would probably be about 3,000 potential emails that you might need.
Can you explain?
I would then
sorry to interrupt. Fiverr, is that the outsourcing platform?
Sorry, yeah. So Fiverr is a how do I explain it best? A creative marketplace. I have sourced 4 or 5 people that work for me right now through Fiverr initially who can create like email lists for you. You go there, type in B2B email list, and you get all these like data mining people that come up and go create all those lists for you. Now, the way I do it is I work out who I actually want to attract, and I send them a list of the company's emails, and I ask them to get the CEO's details, the sales director's details, and someone else's details too. 3 people in the company, okay? And they come back to me, and I might send them 500, and they come back to me with 1,500. Then I would go and get yourself a quickmail.io account. This account is one that will give you the ability to do cold email marketing at scale. And then I would chuck into your cold email marketing system templates that, like a 4 email sequence template. The first email is basically just explaining what you do, what fears you kill, and how to go about that. The 4 or 5 emails after are literally just saying, hey, did you get my last email? 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 And the way I do it is I'm very cheeky in the way that I do my email marketing. Here's an example of the results of being cheeky. I will send out 1,000 emails. I will get up to 96% open rates. So that's 960 people who open the emails, and up to 57% reply rates, which is up to 570 people replying. And then 30% of those, which would be 400 or thereabouts, of people that reply that are positive replies.
So how are you getting 96% open rates?
I'll tell you. The way that I do it is because I've worked out how to use custom fields so well that I can get the email to say, is insert colleague name appropriate, or you is the title. So say you and I we're in a business partnership together, right? So Jonny and Chris, and you've got someone who's trying to email us. I would get an email saying, is Jonny appropriate or you? And you would get an email saying, is Chris appropriate or you? So you both have this conversation in your head. Is like, oh, am I the right person, or is it Jonny, or is it someone else? And then you and I chat and say, hey, did you get the same email? Yeah. Did you get the same email? Do you think that offer's right or not? They'd be like, well, I can see the value in it. That's sweet. Do you want to chat to him, or do you want me to chat to him? And then that's what happens with every fucking company I go through. But why do they open it up? Because they see someone they know's name in the title. And then when they see what I have there, it goes through that process. Now, Quickmail will cost you $70 a month to have, quickmail.io. You set that first email up, you use the that like cheeky fucking headline sort of thing, right? But it's not cheeky because it explains them in that respects that you're just looking for the right person. And then I would hunt fucking hard across those 3 months, because you've got 3 months of money to last this, for affiliates to run that business. Now, you said $1,000, that took me to 480. My course is 497, that pays for $1,000.
Nice plug. I'll give you the rest of it. I like that.
But so I was trying to work that out, like in that respect, because and why I say that too is because I've got, shameless plug, I've got like 40 or 50 templates someone could use right now. You know what I mean? And it takes me through the whole process of doing that at the same time too. But honestly, that's what I'd do if I was day one and I had to do that. I'd work out who already owns my current customer list. How can I get onto them? How can I do it without actually fucking doing anything? And it's through like cold email. And this is why I teach cold email, because it is like the fucking key to the kingdom if you use it correctly.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting that you have such an emphasis on email still. Cause some people think that it's all died out and then you're now going to go through other mediums. But
I really hope they think that for the rest of existence, because I will make money on email and they won't.
is email the number one asset, do you think, out of all those kind of platforms?
100%. 100%. There's there's an old saying where a marketer was speaking to another marketer and he said, I want to get a new car. And he goes, sweet, send it to the list. Like, you want $100,000 car? Send out an offer that gets you 100 grand to your list and you get the car next week.
Right.
Send it to the list.
So what about LinkedIn, for instance?
I don't use it.
Is there a reason you don't use it as one tool?
Because I can't automate it. Actually, I can, but it costs a lot to automate it.
And so automation is a top, it's the number one criteria really for how you'll go about business.
Absolutely. Like I like automating the process until the conversation gets to the point where they need to say yes or no. Then I'm happy to get on the phone.
Just because that's obviously more efficient.
Well, it stops half the conversation. Like, and don't get me wrong, my email marketing is pretty intuitive as well. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like a lot of people get back to me and say, yeah, I'll get on the phone with you. Then they don't actually set a time with me. So I chuck them into another email sequence funnel. And the first email in it is a cheeky one saying, hey, look, I know you're really busy. I just want to send you a transcript of what our conversation probably would have looked like. So I send them hey man, sorry, been really busy, COVID, my dog ate something, and can you call me back in a year? And I go through the process of like, I know, I'm a dick, but I take them through the conversation, what it would look like, and that pretty much kills all their objections in the first place. I get more replies from that because they're like, you're such a cheeky little fuck, but I get what you're trying to do now. And they just say yes or no. You know what I mean? And I don't even have to do any more selling anymore. They're just like, sweet, makes sense. Let's do it. It's as simple as that. But you kind of have to get to that point of understanding how to be conveying your message in such a way where you don't have to speak to someone anymore before they even get on the phone with you. They already know they want to like partner up with you or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. So a couple of things there. Because you work at such scale, what do you do when someone does say no? Is it truly a no? Like, you know how there's some people out there in sales who say a no is not a no, like you can still get them. Do you come back to those people?
Depends on the context. But I don't know. I really try to live on and this is why I build out massive lists of different types of people to partner with too, because like, if they've said no, like I don't care. Some will, some won't. So what? Like there's fucking infinite amount of people out there to speak to. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to get caught up in a no.
But anything less than a no, it's worth pushing. What are your view on like follow-ups and things like that? When do you stop? Even if they haven't said directly no.
So my first email sequence goes for 5 emails, which goes across about a week. My follow-up funnel goes for about 5 emails again.
And sorry, Chris, when you say they run for a week, these are timed, automated emails going out? You don't have to actually do anything here?
No, 1 per day. I don't do a thing.
And they're all differently, like they're worded as the appropriate follow-ups.
Correct.
And then if someone was to respond to one of those emails,
they get taken out of the sequence. And
do they get put into a different sequence, or do you ever intervene?
It depends, because it depends on the actual conversation that's happening right there and then. Because the goal for that first sequence is to get them on the phone to agree to the partnership. If they say yes, but they don't set a time, and I've tried to follow up again, I then chuck them into another sequence, which is I call it the follow-up sequence, because it's just there to follow up. And it follows them up until they reply back. That goes for as long as it goes for.
I see. And what, can you repeat the software you're using to do this?
Quickmail.io.
And that's the best one out there in your opinion, to use for this?
Just the one I used. I don't know. There might be better ones out there, but this one seems to work really well. It's got a lot of custom fields that I can play around with and stuff too. And it's pretty cheap. You know what I mean? I think it's still new enough too that I'm in touch with the guy that actually owns the company now too, because they have a Facebook group where he's a part of. So you actually have the ability to actually be in touch with the people that own the company at the same time too. So you can actually see what's happening and get the inside scoop and really find out how to make the best out of the actual software too.
What would you recommend for someone who is looking for a free Are there any free platforms that can do even 5% of what this is doing?
Look, with this one, you can do up to like, I think it's like up to like 100, 200 emails for free a month anyway. So you can try it out anyway and see if you like it and see if you're willing to put the $70 a month into it, sort of thing. But outside that, I don't really think there's any other ways to do it other than doing it manually. Because not many other softwares out there are accepting of cold email specifically, because it is, it's essentially frowned upon to some degrees. But it's not if you use a software that doesn't have that negative capability, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Thanks for that. Sorry to intervene. So you were just wrapping up on that other point. In the second week, you've got a stream of emails going out.
Yes. Yeah. So that one goes for as long as it goes for. I think I've got 100 days.
Okay. Cool. I mean, well, it sounds like you've got a system in place that kind of deals with all that. You do get to a yes or a no one way or another.
At some point, yeah, you do. And then, if they say that they want to be spoken to in 3 months' time, I set them up for something 3 months' time. You know what I mean? Like that's all the way I go about it. Typical sales positioning sort of stuff from there on out.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate making the time. You must be exhausted. You've been speaking all day by the sounds of it.
I'm okay. This is podcast number 3, and I did my live this morning. Like I'm pretty used to presenting all day anyway, so I think we're okay.
Okay, and how can people reach you?
Instagram at the Chris M, THE Chris M. That's you can chuckle this too. It's gonna be at the Chris M. So THECHRASEM. If you are on LinkedIn, you can find on LinkedIn. It's Chris Morrison Sales Trainer. And if you do want to grab yourself a copy of that book, go to thecoldemailmastery.com and let me know either way. Like, reach out to me, let me know what you guys thought of this. And if you did take something away from it, I'd love to hear it, because I like knowing how people might perceive my fucking crazy thoughts some days. So it's everyone digests things differently, you know what I mean? So